This is the work that we are being invited to meet in the void. This right here. And your response to that is what determines how long you stay in that void, because time is not linear. Time is a construct of this reality. And divine timing is asking for you. You are not the mercy of it. What happens when you decide that you're no longer living in a codependent universe where you are seeking the evidence to inform your state? What happens when you decide that? And this is where some might say you have to be willing to get delusional, which I just see as like taking away the illusion and be in the having. That you may not realize in all of this, God, source, the universe, wants you to trust it. Like, this is the paradigm that we're moving into. God wants you to trust it over everything else so that you can go to that next level, because this is how you create there. Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the Abundance Club podcast. I am your host, Amy Wilkinson. Thank you for clicking on this episode and tuning in today, whether you are here watching it on Spotify or YouTube, whether you just simply have me in your ears. I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for your presence. And I really think that you are going to enjoy this conversation. My goodness, this has come through me like a really clear transmission and message from spirit, and one that I was really excited to share, actually, because I'm going to share a little bit about my own journey with this that I feel really deeply called to speak to on today. And I feel like that's going to help you in understanding and being able to navigate this space that we are in often on this journey of, let's say, reality creation, conscious creation, manifestation, whatever it is. This void between the version of us that is wanting and hoping and doing all the things to create a certain reality, and the one that has it, the one that is living it in real time. And what I want to talk about is that you cannot be the one wanting and the one that's having at the same time. And just let that meet you for a moment. Just let that hit you for a moment. You cannot be the one who is wanting and the one who is having at the same time. You, as the sovereign creator of your own life, you have that sovereign power, that sovereign choice. You have to choose, because it is your identity that is informing your reality. So if right now you are navigating this void space, which you likely are if you've clicked into this episode, if you are wanting something to shift in your life, if you're wanting your circumstances to change, if you're wanting life to look different, the question isn't the one that we usually ask ourselves when we are in that place. And we often ask ourselves over and over again. So it's not the question of what do I need to do? Or the other one is like, how do I get there? Or how do I make that happen? Because all that those questions are doing is reinforcing the current reality that you are wanting or trying to shift or change out of. So the deeper question then, and really the most powerful, one of the most powerful questions is, what is this? Who is this inviting me to become? What is the deeper invitation here? Because this is not a strategy question. And I think often, because we are used to operating from the logical part of our brain, we are used to logicizing our life, we go straight into thinking that it's something that we need to do, and we're then in a strategy question. This isn't a strategy question. This is an embodiment question. And your response to that question is what determines the reality that you experience. So for me, life has over and over again demanded that I walk my own talk. This is why I am an embodiment teacher, because I have been schooled through that. It's almost like life's going, if you are going to teach this, you have to live this, and we're going to school you through it. And right now, if you're asking yourself these questions and you're navigating this perceived void space, it's likely doing the same for you. So, I want to share something more personal from my own experience over recent years with the intention that it may reveal light for you in what you're navigating in your own life at the moment, particularly if you have been drawn to this episode. So, as you may know, if you've listened to a previous episode of mine before, a few years ago, I manifested a sale of my business that I was in, that left me with more money in my bank account than I'd ever had before. And it's probably the first time that I've actually shared that. And the reason that I say, I manifested it, even though it was a collaborative arrangement, is that it was a clear manifestation. It was a great manifestation. It was divine, in fact, in the way that it played out, in what came through, being an exact match for what it was that I perceived being available to me, what it was that I called in. So it was a real illumination for me of the power, another illumination, because I've manifested many amazing things in my life, but another illumination of the power of this work when we choose to live it and choose to embody it. And what I want to share is what happened after, like what came after the manifestation, which I wasn't really conscious of at the time when I was in it, but I can now see with the beauty of hindsight. I can see with such clarity that essentially I freaked out. And I remember thinking at the time, this might have even been days after receiving the money in my bank account and being in that real, like, I've jumped off the cliff now. Yes, there was money, but I'd walked away from a business that I had known and lived and breathed and identified with for over 15 years. So I remember thinking, what do I do now? Right. So straight away I went into that strategy question, like, what do I do now? And I can recognize that internally I was panicked because somewhere deep inside of me, I believed something that so many of us unconsciously believe because it's been so wired within us, the belief that, for me, that the business had been the source of my abundance. You might relate to this as a job or an employer being the source of your abundance. So when it was gone, when all of a sudden that had vanished, I believed, or a big part of me believed, that my abundance had gone with it. And instead of fully trusting that my supply was infinite, instead of remembering what was actually the source of my abundance, which is unchanging regardless of our circumstances, a big part of me believed it was up to me to figure it out, because I'd operated a lot of my business from that place in a little bit more of that, I guess, masculine energy. I was a high achiever. And so I was still operating in that kind of paradigm. So I believed that it was up to me to figure something out, to create something else, to make something happen, and to chase. And so in life, in its infinite wisdom, life took me through what I can now see as a beautiful initiation. But in truth, it was not beautiful at the time. It was a bit painful. It was uncomfortable. It was confusing. It was messy. And that initiation brought me many incredible things. But one of the biggest things it asked of me was to uncouple my worth from money, to uncouple my safety from perceived external success, to uncouple my identity from external validation. And life schooled me in a really profound way, but I started to ask myself, who am I when the supply I've identified with for, let's say, 15 years overnight disappears? Who am I when the evidence in my external reality isn't arriving as quickly as it would like? I mean, and I'm a manifestation teacher, so there was a part of me that was really questioning that. Like, hang on, I should just be able to keep manifesting this, right? But life had other plans. When there's a deeper initiation that we're being moved through, a lot of things are going to be stripped bare. So I was asked, like, who am I when I'm putting in this effort, doing all the things, like using all the tools in my toolbox, but the outside world isn't reflecting it back to me yet? And I was starting to get impatient. And then the other thing was, who am I when the money in my bank account is actually declining? And I realized that I was being asked to move as the woman. I was being initiated like on the throne of my own life to move as the woman who does not need the external proof. If that's the initiation, what do you think is going to be taken away from you? Right? That external proof, that external validation, because I was being asked to move as the woman who didn't require the validation, to move as the woman who decides before life reflects it back, because the reflection is never the cause. It's the inevitable byproduct of who you have chosen to be. And somewhere through that process, I realized that, hang on a minute, I'm not waiting for life. Life is actually waiting for me because I am the signal, like I am the one that life responds to. But when we are living in this wanting energy, and I know many of you can relate to this, I see it so much with clients and people in my community and people that reach out to me. When we're in that waiting energy, we are unconsciously waiting for life to become the signal. So we are identifying with this void space rather than with the having. We are waiting for our external circumstances to change before we can actually believe that we are abundant, or before we believe that we're successful, or maybe that we're enough, right? So we wait for the relationship to feel loved. We wait for the affection to feel appreciated, or we're waiting for the money or the clients or the business success or the opportunity, some kind of evidence. So let me ask you this, if you can relate to this. Who are you on the identity level? Who are you when you are doing that? Because the identity underneath it is saying, I am not the one who has it. I am the one who's waiting. And what that does is that sends out, without you even realizing, that sends out a really clear signal to the universe. Because remember, we are always sending out this signal. And the signal that it's sending out to the universe is one of lack, of dependency, of codependency, of not enoughness, of waiting. And without realizing that, that has become your identity. And I see this time and time again. So many people are identifying with that void. The amount of messages I will receive from people, I'm in the void. I've been in the void for so long. I'm like, okay, great. What's life saying? You're in the void. You're in the waiting. Maybe you're in this preparation. Maybe you're in this healing time. And we are just reaffirming that identity to the universe because that's what we do. And without realizing, that becomes our identity, and life simply responds to the frequency that we are choosing and we are embodying, because that's how powerful we are. So what life does is it just amplifies the signal that we continually project through our dominant thoughts and through our emotions and through who we're being. So we stay in this perpetual cycle of waiting, or whatever you want to call it. We all have different names for it, right? It's coming, or it's going to happen, or I'm going to get it, right? Without realizing what that's actually doing. So we're trying to solve a problem that can never be solved from the same identity that actually created the problem. You cannot solve lack from the identity of lack. You cannot create abundance from the identity of someone that's waiting to become abundant once something changes. So hope and desire aren't the problem. We can hope and we can desire all we want. But hoping while remaining identified as the one who doesn't yet have what she desires, that's what keeps us stuck. That's what keeps us on this loop, on this hamster wheel. Because the version of you who already has what you desire, she's not living in the need. She's not living from need. She's not seeking. She's not waiting. She's living. She's experiencing. She's enjoying. She's embodying. She's in gratitude. And because of that, she is operating differently. She is thinking differently. She is making different decisions. She's even holding herself in a different way. Her nervous system feels different. And honestly, I see so many coaches focusing on you have to heal this to do this. You have to heal the nervous system to do this. And yes, whilst there can be truth in that, we have to be really careful with what we are charging. And I love to bring people back into the understanding that you are source, you are so powerful. So whatever you're believing you need, whatever you're believing needs to happen before this happens, is going to be so. If you are believing that you need to have this super relaxed nervous system in order to manifest, so it will be. And by the way, when I've manifested some phenomenal things in my life, I was not super relaxed. I did not have a regulated nervous system, right? So, what are the rules and the conditions that you are placing on yourself around this? Seriously. So, the woman who has it, she has a completely different relationship with the universe. And that is one that is built on the most important thing. And I will say this again and again and again because I have seen it. I've seen the power of this state. And that is certainty. And she understands that certainty isn't about knowing exactly how something will happen. It's not knowing that this exact thing is going to happen because that can very easily turn into control. But it's a certainty of who she is, of her place, of when she moves, life responds. It's a knowing of who she is. And it's a knowing of her relationship with the divine, with source, with life. And she knows that when she operates from that certainty, life responds in kind. It is done. It is inevitable. Because no matter what is the nature of the desire, like what matters isn't what we are actually desiring. You can desire $20 billion for all I care, like, or for all the universe cares, or $1. What matters is not that, but is the energy that's behind it. It's who you're being. So if you're navigating the void and it feels to you like nothing is happening, try asking yourself, what is the deeper invitation here? So if I shifted, if I was to choose, and you can do this, to shift from the one who wants into the one who already has, what would change? Like, what would actually change? What would I stop waiting for? What would I decide today as though it was already done? And then the embodiment, like how does that feel in my body if I stopped the waiting and knew that I was in the having? How would that feel in my body? Right? Rather than focusing on changing the conditions of my nervous system, what about I embody the version of me who has a regulated nervous system, right? How would I walk? How would I speak? How would I treat myself if I'm in the having energy, in the it is done energy? What choices would I make? Because this is the work that we are being invited to meet in the void. This right here. And your response to that is what determines how long you stay in that void, because time is not linear. Time is a construct of this reality. And divine timing is asking for you. You are not the mercy of it. So honestly, once you understand this, you can start treating this void as a gift. And I know for me, without experiencing what felt like a delay, without experiencing the loss of what I believed, I falsely believed was my source, I would probably still be tying my worth and success to external metrics. Instead, life invited me to meet who I was when every illusion I'd built to keep myself feeling safe was stripped away. Why? Because I was ready for my next level expansion. And within that, I discovered something so much deeper and more powerful that I want to share. And that was that my security actually never existed outside of me. And I want to say this, I think it's also important to say, like, I have been exploring this work, diving into spirituality, teaching spirituality for 20, 25 years. So I considered myself to be spiritual, and it can be one thing to understand these concepts, but it can be very different when life is asking you to actually walk it. Well, if you truly believe that, let's take this away from you and see how you go. And that's the difference. That's the difference in people that are saying this, regurgitating this, speaking this, and those that are actually asked to walk through the fire of their own life and meet the illusions that have actually been keeping them in a cage that they had the key to the whole time. So, me feeling in some way that I can be a spiritual teacher but still believe that my security was out there in something that I had or something that I was doing or something that I identified in. And that was the greatest illusion of all for me to start to crack. And what I was then shown is that it's not in another person's voice. I would outsource authority to other people's voices and wisdom rather than my own. And life was like, we're going to show you that. And I'm not going to even say lost, right? But relationships have shifted out of my life because of that, because I decided that I was no longer available, or life decided I was no longer available for that illusion, for co-signing that limitation. So it wasn't in another person's strategy or voice. It wasn't in somebody else's strategy. It wasn't in a business. It isn't in money. It isn't in a relationship. And what happens when we stop pedestaling, having trouble with that word. I don't like that word. When we are pedestaling those things as our authority or as our source, we move to a place where we discover. And it might be painful. It might feel like a stripping back. It might feel a cracking or a crumbling, but ultimately gets us to a place where we can remember that it's within us, that it's all within us, that we are actually everything. It's who we are when we remember ourselves. And quite honestly, if I hadn't gone through what I had gone through, if I hadn't experienced the decline, if I hadn't, and that's just like decline of money, perceived decline, or the stripping back, the illusions being revealed, as painful as it was at the time, if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be at this place of like hand on heart, feet on the earth, remembering deeply, like hands in prayer on the ground, fully knowing and believing that everything is you, that everything is here. And so that has been a gift. That cracking and that crumbling is a gift to celebrate, to have gratitude for, because that's the truth. And that is the only evidence we ever really need, because who we are in our essence is love. It's wholeness, it's abundance, it's everything we have spent our lives searching for out there. Then we realize it's not actually out there. Like, why do you think there are so many billionaires that have everything, but feel lost inside because they don't have, or they're not at least tapped into their own peace, their own abundance, their own worthiness? What is success if not that? Nothing is separate from us. And when we remember that, we realize that we are the creators of our reality. And that's not just something that's like on a meme. We are expressions of God, Source itself. And if we are Source, how could we ever be in a state of wanting? And that's what we're here to remember ultimately, right? Source simply experiences itself as Source in all areas, allowing life to be expressed through you. But first, we have to decide that by choosing the identity. Who am I when I believe I already am everything I've been searching for? Who am I when I believe life is working with me? Who am I when I move and make choices from having already instead of wanting, because all of it is here hidden in plain sight? Am I the version of me who believes that I'm not there yet, That I'm still waiting? That I'm in that void? Or am I the woman who's already arrived? I'm there because she realizes she was never separate from it in the first place, right? Like manifestation isn't about getting something outside of you. Let that be clear, at least not the manifestation that I teach. It's not about acquiring things. It's about embodying what has always been true. It's a remembrance, a return to who you already are, and your sovereign choice to live as her now without needing anything outside of you to change first. That's the initiation. That's the true invitation. And the certain version of you moves as though it's already done, and the universe loves that energy. The universe is obsessed with that energy because the universe is created on certainty. And so the moment you decide to live from having rather than wanting, life is going to reorganize around that decision. And it will begin slowly to show you your next step. Maybe that's through your intuition. Maybe that's through a conversation that someone has with you. Maybe that's through a thought that keeps coming. Like it will bring you the inspired idea, or it will introduce you to the right person. It will suddenly open an unexpected door. It will guide you by a felt sense that you can't ignore, because you were never meant to figure it all out alone. You are in co-creation. The universe is your collaborator. You have access right now without anything needing to change to infinite supply. And your higher self is already connected to that field of infinite intelligence, right? Like she is, call it your future self, call it your higher self. She's here now guiding you every single day. So pay attention. Get quiet enough to listen. Create space for the whispers that sit beneath the noise. Can we turn down the volume of everything else right outside of you and move as though life is absolutely rigged in your favor, as though your deepest desires and your soul desires are not random but divine, and as though there's only the plan A. That's all that exists. And your only job is to be the version of you who's living it now. So, this space in between, we find ourselves in this energy of contradiction. You can feel the vision. You are trusting, you are believing. And I have people reaching out to me saying, like, I can feel it, I know it, but here's the but. But at the same time, I'm in the void. At the same time, it hasn't consolidated into my three-dimensional reality. It's not here. And so your outside world is not looking like what you're actually feeling and knowing within. And we think then that we've done something wrong, right? What happens when you decide that you're no longer living in a codependent universe where you are seeking the evidence to inform your state? What happens when you decide that? And this is where some might say you have to be willing to get delusional, which I just see as like taking away the illusion and be in the having. Then you know that there is no gap. Stop reinforcing this gap. Stop looking outside. Yes, by all means, notice the doubt and resistance for what it is. That's the survival stuff that's going to come up. And it might be questions like, did I make a mistake? Have I done something wrong? Is this really going to happen? What am I missing? Can I really trust this? See it for what it is. Rather than identifying with those questions, with those thought patterns as truth, see them as the limiting thoughts that they are, and see them as evidence that you're actually shifting out of that old identity, that old reality that must die. It is only here, it's only coming up because it's trying so desperately to grip on. It doesn't want to die. It's been used to leading you. It's been keeping you safe. But it knows, and this is why it's coming up, it knows something is about to shift, which is why it gets activated and louder when your next level is here and when you're on the precipice of it. But this is where most people relent because they succumb to the old identity. And they mistake that line of questioning and those feelings for truth and for evidence. So they go back into what they consider safe and familiar. I'm going to park that dream. I'm going to stay with this job. I'm not going to blah, blah, blah. And that what happens is they go back into the version of them that's in wanting. I'm going to stay in the wanting, dreaming, hoping. But I'm not actually going to move as the one who's having it because that might be just too much. And that part of you doesn't want to die. What's the antidote? What's the invitation? What's the opportunity instead? Keep believing. Keep being in the having. Keep knowing, regardless of the external evidence. And this is the only place to live if you are following the invitation to create from your soul, to manifest from your soul. By the way, that's the name of my Substack. If you want to come and follow me on Substack, I send beautiful articles out every week to help you with this. So it's called Manifest with Soul. Find me on Substack. Little plug there. The thing is that you may not realize in all of this, God, source, the universe, wants you to trust it. Like, this is the paradigm that we're moving into. God wants you to trust it over everything else so that you can go to that next level, because this is how you create there. Not as the old version of you, but as source, as a remembrance of who you are. Because something that's become so clear for me and for many others, particularly those who are consciously evolving, saying yes to this new earth timeline, and to anchoring in this new frequency, you're not here to create in the way that you're used to. And for me, what that was like, I'm not here to operate my business in the way that I'm used to. I'm being called into a new way, into a new up level. This is the new paradigm. And if you are feeling this, you too are being invited and initiated in what's showing up in your life right now. But how are you going to respond? From the old way, or from the way that might be uncomfortable, but is asking you to move as that version of you that just knows, that already has? So you are being called up because you have a role to play. And that role is something that you signed up for many moons ago, before you came here. And it requires you to remember the F you are, who the F you are. I can't even say the word. Isn't that funny? It requires you to remember who you are and to live as that now. To make a decision. Oof, there's so much power in your decision, my friend. To make a decision, and to not only make the decision, but to actually back yourself. Quite often we'll make a decision and we'll go, oh, that, hang on a minute, that hasn't changed. Or, oh, I'm a bit flat because nothing's come through. Or because, back yourself, fully throw yourself into it, get behind yourself. And to remember that you did choose this long before you came here, and you are waking up to it now, and you have all the support around you and the people to remind you. And if you don't, put yourself in those communities. You're hearing it first here. It's coming through. I'm having an Abundance Club Inner Circle community, which will be a really affordable way to stay in this work with a live call every month with me, and to be in this inner circle community. If you are not part of a community, get into those spaces and places where you can be reminded of who the F you are, because it is go time. And if you are navigating your own void season right now, and you're craving that deeper clarity or that guidance and support, you're ready to relinquish the old timelines and the old identity that's kept you in this bloody wanting, and to finally flip out of that void, because you don't have to stay there, you get to choose. This is the work that I love walking my clients through inside my private one-to-one sessions. You can do a single session with me. I'll pop the link in the show notes. Pop in there, because sometimes all we need is someone that can help us remember who we've always been and what we're here for. And that's what comes through in these sessions. So the final note here, it's time to stop standing outside the throne of your life. I just had this image of like you're standing next to this beautiful big throne. And it's like you're waiting for permission before you're going to take that throne. I'm waiting for someone to tell me that I'm enough. I'm waiting for the evidence that says I can have it once I've got this many followers, or once I have this much money in my bank account, or once I'm finally in these types of relationships, whatever it is. Sit on the goddamn throne, because the queen that you are doesn't wait for the world to crown her. This just came through. I'm just seeing this such visual, like, just stop waiting for someone to hand you the throne. Pick up the throne. Not the throne, the crown. Sit on the throne. Pick up the crown. Put it on your head. And remember who you are. Because life is going to reflect that knowing back to you so powerfully. But certainty begins with you, beautiful beloved. So until next time, please remember, the life you're calling in it's not out there waiting. It's not waiting for something out there. It's waiting for the version of you who's ready to embody it. And she's here now. She's not in the wanting or the waiting. She's here. It's done. And so it is. I love you so much. Please share this podcast episode with someone that you love who needs this reminder to get on the throne, put on her crown or his throne. And let me know how you found it. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, beloved.